Alright, hey guys, so I figure it was time to talk about the dungeon progress update we received in the last patch notes, and we're just gonna look at some of the points they give us and quickly look at them to kind of see what's going on with dungeons. So when we started working on dungeons, I had several ideas, and the most pressing one would be worth it in the long run, so I guess it would just take a while. And that's what they mean was, yeah, Skyblock would not have another major update for a while, so that's unfortunate. And we know since we haven't had an update since August that was of a good scale. So going a little further, team experience, which team experiences can be really iffy. While solo mode may be released eventually, you want to encourage players to find a party and develop a strategy together. So it shouldn't be too hard to find a group of people. It's nice to know that there will eventually be a solo mode, but we'll have to see where that goes. It depends really how entry works to the dungeon. Just missed the randomly generated point, but we already knew that this was going to be all dungeons be random generation. And I believe they talk about it again further down. So new monster tech, which we already saw some of this. They already showed off some of the new AI in a video, I believe back in December. So that'll be interesting to see how that goes. The many different difficulty tiers. Now this is where it starts to get interesting. So dungeons will have a certain amount of floors, and each floor with a different boss. Everyone will start on the first floor and will have to beat the floor boss to unlock the next one. And each floor will be exponentially harder. So that is interesting. Really interesting. So it'll get really hard the higher we go. But how many floors are there going to be? Next point, exploration. We want dungeons to be constant learning experience. As players run dungeons, they will understand them more and more and become more familiar with the potential layouts. While each dungeon will have a path going from the entrance to the boss room, players will also be encouraged to venture outside the path and explore the rest of the dungeon, solve puzzles, avoid traps, and counter mini-boss. The more you explore dungeons, the stronger team will... So, it seems like... So there's solve puzzles, avoid traps, and mini-bosses. So, I assume this thing on the wall here in this picture is like a puzzle or something? So, you can get some kind of loot or buffs or something by not going straight to the boss. I assume this will be useful in later on floors, maybe not early on. Unless these things, probably mini bosses give loot. But so far it's looking pretty good. And puzzles doesn't really interest me, but more loot is always nice if you're able to go out of your way to get more loot. So strategy. Dungeon level learning curve. Of course. Well, the first couple floors will be simple. You get your butt kicked, forcing you back down and improve your gear. I wonder how long that'll take for like max gear players. That's the real like thing I'm worrying about. 5 dungeon classes will be introduced on release with each very specific strength. So think MMO like tank, range like ranger, healer, or like tank DPS, buffer, healer, something. I don't know. We'll have to see. We already have some of those items in the game, but that's why stuff like the sheep pet is probably going to be a thing. Almost infinite progression. Now this one is going to be a doozy. Every item found in dungeons will be new and unique. There's a new skill, dungeoneering skill. Not only level up your classes, but also buff your dungeon items. Which allows to create monsters extremely strong in the last few floors. So all our gear sucks right now. That's what you're telling me. Is our gear will be useless. We'll have to be using dungeon gear later on. Okay. So the skill buffs it, and we need new gear. So, okay. So all our gear right now sucks. Good to know. Good to know. Not including drops from mobs, dungeon bosses will reward some of the strongest weapons in the game and powerful item items such as new reforges, ultimate enchants, and more. So, okay. So we're getting some new stuff, new reforges, new enchants, new modifiers. I don't know what a modifier is. I mean, I know what a modifier is, but I don't know how it applies to Skyblock. But so we got new gear that's pretty much only good in dungeons. Or correction. New gear that is buffed by the dungeoneering skill that'll buff your dungeon items, but will they work outside of the dungeon is the question. And how hard will they scale? I assume they'll only work inside the dungeon, or they would not be able to scale other points of the game differently. But we'll have to see. and much more. So we're kind of getting at the end. We can talk about dungeon map, exploration scoring system, salvaging system, shop, dungeon passes, party finder, aggro system, wardrobe, death mechanics. So that's a lot. So map, that's like exploration and scoring system. So there's like a score. Salvaging system, I guess you can salvage your dungeon gear for like fragments to use in the shop. Dungeon passes, I don't know what a dungeon pass is going to be. I really hope it's not like summon eyes. Please no. Party finder, that might be nice, but most people can probably find a party, but we'll have to see with that one. Aggro system, so this is probably so come back to the whole class. They talk about like the 5 classes where you have like a tank, so that's probably where this comes in. A wardrobe system. Now I don't know what's up with that one. That's probably more so like for like putting on extra equipment that buffs you or something. Death mechanics, probably maybe more like you get resident dungeon by your team or something. That's what I think with this. Other than that, yeah. And they've said enough when they like say a bunch of other points, which I really want to find out what they mean. Especially the like dungeon pass and shop system. Also how what the score system is going to affect for loot. But we gotta wait for that. And are they done yet? And they don't know when it will be ready. There are still many mobs on the list, many items, and several bosses. Many mechanics unfinished. At the end of the day, I want to release one we truly believe dungeons are fun and rewarding experience for players. While we cannot accurately say when it will be ready for release, we believe a rough estimate places dungeons for late March or early April. So, a rough estimate for late March. I feel like late March is way too soon. And early April, which I could believe if it falls, towards the middle of April. So ideally I would love to have this by the end of March, but I don't see it coming out. I can believe it coming out by the end of April to early May. Preferably, first few weeks of April though, considering there is a Slayer update coming. I hope they don't use the Slayer update as like a scapegoat to stall for time, but we'll have to see on that. It's pretty exciting, seeing all this stuff, and there's a bunch of things we don't know, like the gear and all this other information. And I can't wait to see when it comes out, and we'll have to wait probably another 6 to 8 weeks, but anyway, yeah, I can't wait till it finally comes out. And thank you guys for sit through this whole video. I really appreciate it. Remember to leave a sub so when Dungeon finally drops, you guys can see me live or see videos about all the new Dungeon stuff. But pretty far away at the moment. But yeah, thanks for watching, guys. Take care, everyone. Bye.